Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Picture Your Dream Here podcast. My name is Jacob Hemingway, and I'm so excited to be your host. I've written an album and released it this year, Picture Your Dream Here. It's an instrumental guitar album available on all streaming platforms, and it's meant to inspire people to take some time, listen to the music, and picture your dreams. Big dreams, small dreams, everything in between. I've also come out with some journals, Picture Your Dream Here journals, and they're meant to be a place where you can actually write everything down. I think we all have dreams, but we don't always take the time to sit down and write it down, so I wanted to create something so that people have an opportunity to slow down and really think about all the dreams that they have in life and get them all written down. So head on over to jacobhemingway.com to check out journals. I've got t-shirts, and then you can stream Picture Your Dream Here anywhere online. Thanks so much for tuning in. Okay, today we have a very special guest, my good friend Nathan Sipes. Nathan is a multi-instrumentalist, multi-talented guy. He's a family man, and we've been friends for a really long time. We actually lived together back when I was about 19, and we did some music production back then and since, and he just recently did the mixing for and played bass for Jealous, my most recent release. And this guy's just a wealth of knowledge in a lot of areas of life, and specifically with music. I can lean on him a ton when I need help with anything regarding transcribing, composition, audio engineering. He can set up all sorts of types of instruments as well. So he's always a great, text away. And I'm really excited to share this conversation that we've had together, just talking about dreams and life and what that's meant for him and things he's currently doing, and just a lot of his thoughts in a lot of different areas of life. So enjoy, and here we go. Okay, we have Nathaniel Sipes on the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I've got a little bit of a sickness going on, so excuse that, but otherwise I'm good.
Can you hit that low B flat now?
Let's see. I don't think I can quite get that, no.
Is it more difficult to hit low notes when you're sick, or easier?
Well, I think I could only achieve that when I had a really, really bad, sinus issue going on or something. I'd almost lost my voice, but this is different.
Sorry you're not feeling so well.
That's all right. It's been our year so far.
Yeah. 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 And honestly, the pollen content here in the Midwest has just been I've just been crazy.
Yeah.
Clareton has been a friend of mine this year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, I wanted to start by asking for this podcast, what have dreams meant to you? What do dreams mean to you?
I could take a really literal approach, but I think you're asking more in a metaphorical way.
I'm letting you take it whichever way you want.
Yeah. I guess for me personally, I use dreams as a guide, and I don't put much stock in them aside from that. So I try to let my dreams kind of have their own space and go wherever they want to, and not have any restraints put on them, because I get to do that after the fact. So yeah, dreams kind of give me this guide of where maybe I might like to see things go, and then I allow my more reasonable mind to see what I can achieve and how I can get there. And maybe some things are just nice dreams to have, but they don't have to turn into anything, and that's okay too. Yeah, I guess that's how I look at dreams, as kind of a indicator of sorts.
Yeah. Have you ever dreamed for something and it's turned out exactly like the dream you've had?
Um, I don't know. I think probably no, but that doesn't always turn out in a bad way. I think sometimes when you have something in mind, and I think when you want to seek that out exactly as you had it in mind, sometimes that's limiting because along the way you find out something different or something better than what you'd initially envisioned. Um, so I guess I don't do a lot of measuring against what I had initially thought because often I find something more interesting along the way.
Yeah. Has that kind of changed over the years? Have you had a different approach to aspirations or goals? Like, has this kind of like, this is where you are, this is what you've come to now as like, this is really, where the money is?
Yeah, I think if anything, how it's changed over the years in a Broadway has been that I have less grandiose dreams. And that is not to say that I've stopped dreaming. I think perhaps maybe a better way of saying it is that they're less intricate. Um, a lot of times, I think that when you're younger, at least in my experience, you have a vision of something, and perhaps it's really involved, and that's the thing that makes it engaging to you is that there's a lot to it. But I think the older I get, the more I recognize the value in it and a simple dream or aspiration that it can be something special because of how simple it is, and it's more of a scaffolding for everything else to be built around, rather than this ornate image of something that's hard to attain.
Yeah. I think what's fascinating, one of the fascinating things about you is that like there are very few subjects or topics that I couldn't like just text you and be like, "Hey, what's your take on so and so or such and such or what's a good procedure for?" I mean, like so many different avenues musically, like, "Oh, how do you set up a guitar?" to how do you, set up a compression for a snare drum to, um, oh, I don't know. Just there's so many different things that I know that I could just text you out of the blue. And I think one of the tragedies is the fact that it's usually not preceded by "Hi, how you doing?" It's usually just, "So what camera would you use in this context?" And you have such a wide range of um, like in-depth knowledge of a lot of areas. And so I guess I'm just wondering, has ever been a time where it's felt more crippling? Like for me personally, if I feel like I'm starting to get good at something, it's like, "Oh, I want to get really good at this. I want to make it like either profitable or just want to be like really good." Like right now I'm learning how to do taping and mudding after drywalling. I've done some of the construction stuff, and I've done painting and all that. But this in between stuff I'm learning, it's like, "Oh, I want to learn to do it so I can be the best or whatever." But when I'm younger, it'd be like crippling thought, having like like a fixed mindset, like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm never gonna be the best at this, so why even try?" But you get to a point where you learn the practical, like, okay, no one's paying me for this. I'm doing this for myself. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'd like it to be. So in all these different categories where you have a lot of talents, um, how do you feel like you have to cope sometimes with like, "Oh, I'll never have enough time to spend on that," or, "Oh, it's just like there's no money in that," or you know what I mean? Like what? How do you stay? How do you keep learning things about things? How do you have such a drive about like, I want to learn more things about more subjects and have that interest?
Yeah, big question, but I think I have a good feel for it. Yeah, so I think to answer the last part of that question, where does that come from? Where does the drive come from? I just have always been intensely curious about everything, how things work, why they are the way they are, and in fact, to a point where I have a difficult time doing the simplest of tasks if I don't understand it from an overview level or an intimate level, depending on the context. So I'm just it's how my brain is wired. I'm just really curious. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I can give people is just be curious and don't be afraid of being wrong, because every being wrong is the best kind of failure, because every time you're wrong, it comes with the gift of learning, which is the greatest thing ever, you know? Like it gives you an opportunity to figure out why did I fail, or why did I have something wrong? So yeah, just be curious and look for opportunities to be wrong because that improves you. On the other side of things, has it ever felt like a little bit of a disadvantage or a bit of a hindrance? Yeah, there absolutely have been times. And I think that the older I get, the less that is an issue. But when I was younger, it was a little bit of a thing of how do I let go of this knowledge when I want to just kind of explore, or how do I move forward without having a really solid understanding of this? How do I do the best that I can with that limited set of knowledge? And yeah, I guess I'd say the older I get, the more I just look at it as I don't I don't really need to know everything, just enough to satisfy that curiosity again. And I think the way that I let go of it is recognizing, and I think this is a little bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect, but the further I go, the more I realize how much there is to know and how unattainable it is to know everything. And that's okay. To be awash in this sea of knowledge is okay, because there's so many opportunities to learn. There's so many things to do, and you kind of can't go in a wrong direction. You know, everywhere you look, there's something to gain. And so I kind of just look at it as I'm an eternal student, you know, and so I'm just continuing to play in this vast field of playthings, and it's okay. Um, and then there was one more component to the question, but I think overall, for me, I look at it as it pays off to know a lot about a little bit about a lot of things. I think more than it pays off to know a lot about a few things. And I I heard it articulated in such a great way, and I can't remember the source, but it essentially is, um, amongst the bakers, I'm the best engineer, and
Mm.
amongst the engineers, I'm the best baker.
Mm-hmm.
To a point
Yeah.
where you may not be the best engineer amongst the engineers, and that's okay, because the diversity of your knowledge and skill set allows you to be useful in every context, no matter who's there, because you do have something to offer the group. So I think looking at it as an opportunity to give something to whatever group you're in, because you've spent a little bit of time becoming familiar with that, it allows you just to feel comfortable not having the vast amount of knowledge on any specific thing, because you know that you can contribute, no matter what that looks like, as long as you're open to that.
Yeah. I think that you're a very generous person too, with time and knowledge and sharing things. And I mean, for myself, I know that a lot of times I put a lot of pressure on myself to acquire a skill or learn something because of something that like I have a use for, I have a need for. But I think that you um in the pursuit of things, you've also done a really great job of always like extending a hand to someone else. Like, hey, and if you need to know anything about this or whatever, and I think that's made you, a really valuable asset for a lot of people. For me specifically, with a lot of music stuff that I do, I mean, we have known each other for a long time, played together for a long time, so we've developed a musical relationship. But B, you have skills that I have are crippling to me, like charting things out, anything. I mean, being able to explain things on a deeper, more theoretical level to musicians that have, kind of that next level experience, and you're able to package things together and recording and all that. Have kind of like, I've found a lot of freedom and life comes from like, oh my gosh, like I'm able to pass this on. Like, I'm so glad I learned X, Y, and Z. Has that ever kind of like fueled a fire in it for you? Like, oh, I want to look into this because like this will benefit like so and so, or what's been kind of your relationship with that kind of experience?
Mhm. Yeah, I think a few components to that as well. Good question. On the one hand, being willing to give knowledge or share knowledge is to me. I look at it as the old saying of when the tide comes in, all the boats rise. So to me, I'm so willing to, I guess, share that kind of knowledge because, especially with those who I'm interacting with often, because as they get more proficient in a thing, it then also comes back and challenges me or gives me more opportunities. And so when the people that I'm surrounding myself with have the ability to better themselves, that gives back in kind. And so it's not really entirely selfless, I'm always happy to share, but it also is a little bit of a thing of, selfishly, it's going to improve my it's going to challenge me in the long term because they're going to continue pushing things further as, we're all moving ahead. Um, and then I think I always have had a natural desire to help, like in education or teaching, like to help people open those windows higher up in their mind, so to speak. There's something really rewarding about when you're working with somebody and you see that kind of like realization moment where their eyes kind of light up and you see that explosion of thought, and it's an incredibly rewarding thing. And so I guess to me it kind of has a natural reward system of just feeling that kind of excitement as you're helping someone understand. I think also I have a bit of an easier time understanding technical things and also having the soft skills to explain it in a common way. And I like being able to bridge that gap for people. And so part of my work as my day job, is communicating highly technical information in a easy to understand way. And that is something that has come natural to me. So I appreciate being able to like help people get something that they've been struggling with. It just feels like it again raises that tide for all of us.
Yeah, has Chat GPT given you a run for your money?
No, certainly not. It's a really interesting tool, and it's been something that's been really cool to keep an eye on. I was definitely an early adopter of this technology, trying to like, figure out how it works and different things like that. And it was unlike anything I'd, seen it prior to this. The culmination of a lot of different efforts, and it. I think at first a lot of people were kind of scared of it taking away jobs, which from like a coding standpoint, it's like cool,
Right.
because we don't want
Frees
to
you
do
up to
that
do,
anyway.
yeah, to do
But
things you're actually passionate about.
yeah, and there's a little bit of like because it's a language processor, there's a bit of like a amongst the field that I work in, there's like a little bit of a anxiety surrounding it because it does such a good job of simulating natural speech. But I think that it does a good job of predicting or simulating human-like text. But it's when you start digging deeper, it's really not very effective at the types of work that humans are good at, specifically, logical thinking. And
Yeah.
you can see some of that when you loft a little bit heavier tasks at it. But it is really effective in certain areas, and I think that's encouraging. It has the potential to eventually grow into something that could be a useful kind of co-pilot, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fun.
Hmm.
What are some dreams that, and like you've said before, maybe it wasn't an exact bullseye on the original target of a dream, but what's something big in your life um, that you're like, oh, I really hope I can get to this point, or hope I can see this happen in my lifetime? What's something that has already happened for you?
Um, what is it? An example of a dream that has happened for me?
Are you asking
Yeah.
me for an example?
Can you recontextualize that
Yeah,
for me?
absolutely. What's something that, whether you've written it down, like I hope to accomplish this, or I hope to see this happen in my life. What's a big thing in your life that's actually come to pass?
Okay. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that I could go with.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel really fortunate in a lot of ways for the life that I have. I'm grateful for that. I think one of the earliest things that I can probably tie back to is this just deep love of music and wanting to explore that. And since we're both musicians, it seems natural to talk about that. But I've always been just steeped in music in my home life, in my family, and just experimenting on different instruments. And I think that I always felt like a desire to take this thing to a point where I felt really comfortable and like there was a seamless connection between what I was experiencing and hearing like in my mind and soul and what I was putting out into the world through the medium of whatever instrument. And I think that's something that has come to fruition at this point in my life. I feel very connected in this way on specifically on the instrument of bass, but I feel just a lot more like a natural connection, even when I'm doing things like production or arranging. There's a lot less like actual thought happening and a lot more just kind of like this pure communication. And so, yeah, I think that's one for me is just achieving this level of kind of articulation on my instrument. Just a moment.
Yeah.
All right, and we're back.
Hey, welcome back.
Thank you.
So there's dreams we have for ourselves, and there's dreams we have for other people, or enterprises, or whatever. Are there any dreams that you had hoped to have seen, that you've already seen, like for others?
Mm. It's a bit harder to consider. Um, I think there are a few ways I could take that as well. Yeah, I don't want to put on anybody on blast either.
Sure.
But I think I can say broadly, I've seen a lot of development in those around me, um, personally and also creatively and professionally. That has been really fulfilling to watch happen. And just I think on a personal level too, like the people that are around you, you love and appreciate them as they are, but you also kind of see these things like, oh, this is an area where like I hope to see them grow and mature. And yeah, there's been a lot of that I've been able to witness in the people around me. And I think a lot of that comes through, living life and just seeing the ways that they take chances and or the ways that they have to react to hard circumstances and sometimes just taking a chance with things pays off. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, and the way they react from that is what actually becomes the fruit from that situation.
Right, right. Is there a big dream of something that you hope to see change in your lifetime?
Yeah. Um, and I think some of those things we don't need to get too deep into, but there's a lot of things that I think a lot of us could look at. Um, the ways that people are struggling around us broadly, that there's a lot of room for improvement. I think ultimately, like, I want to see a future in which I'm confident, letting my kids out into the world,
Yeah.
and I ultimately, like, I want them to have a better world than I was given. I have relatively little influence on the world as a whole, but I hope that I'm able to develop an environment for them that they feel confident in taking chances, confident in standing up for their values and the things that they really feel strongly about. I think, on a greater sense, that's kind of it for me, is wanting to see out this vision of my children being able to, um, I guess, take things just a little bit further than I was able to. Looking at the legacy that I was given, the great amount of work that my parents were able to put into me, and to be able to take that and appreciate that and try to take it just a little bit further, and pass that on to my children.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any other things that are, kind of coming to mind for you while we're talking about all this?
Just broadly.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me pull out your notebook here and see if any of those prompts get me going.
Yeah, that's
This
awesome.
this this notebook here that is Jacob Hemingway branded.
Perfect.
Um, let's see, yeah. So,
Hey, I sell those.
oh yes, he sells these for $16,
18.
$20, $100.
That's right.
I don't.
But today, or any day that you're listening to this podcast, you can get it at $18.
18.
That's
Okay,
right.
I was close. One of those numbers was close.
We'll take the one.
Um, yeah. So, you have a dream about traveling. That's always been a big. I think all of us want to travel, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some people are
Some people
naturally more
don't.
homebody,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I think, one of the things that my wife and I have always done in our relationship is just travel together. Obviously, we're not of a great means to be able to just hop on a plane and go overseas or anything, but just being able to hop in the car and just flip a coin and choose a direction. I think the thing about travel for me, it's halfway about the places that you'll find yourself, but it's also just about getting somewhere with somebody, and the memories along the way, the things that you talk about, the different choices that you make that lead you somewhere else. And so for us, travel has always kind of been a method of exploration and just an opportunity to do something together, no matter what that looks like. And yeah, of course, I'd love to travel different places around the world, but all the small opportunities to just experience something with somebody, and then years down the line say, "Hey, remember that time where we were in this random place and this thing happened?" And to me, travel is an opportunity to be stuck in a car with my wife for a long time, and that means many opportunities to try to make her laugh, which is one of my
Yeah.
favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, I would love to have more opportunities to travel. Over the past few years, it's been a lot more difficult to do, not only because of the state of the world, but also because of just having a couple little people to
Yeah.
also care for. But I think, as time goes by, there will be a lot more of that happening.
Cool.
But yeah, we just love going to see the ways that other people live, and just finding little diners or whatever, and um, I don't know, just getting a window into somebody else's life. And that to me is a little bit of that dream aspect of just having your mind opened to somebody else's whole life, their whole existence that you didn't know about before.
Yeah.
And You get to just kind of get a glimpse into that world, and it lets you, it kind of shines a light on your own experience and how you take that for granted.
Yeah, yeah. There were a couple spots in there where you sounded a little bit like a robot and a little bit like a chipmunk. It's not your fault. It's the internet's fault. Um, but
Okay.
all the words came through.
Yeah, you were just looking down for a moment, and I wasn't sure if you were asleep or not. So,
I was just so in a trance of what you were saying. I remember, speaking of traveling in moments, when we played when I was in the Down Retreat, we went to Wyoming or whatever, and on the way back we were on I-80 going through like Nebraska or something. I don't know if we made it to Iowa yet, and we were just stopped in traffic, and
uh-huh.
just miles of cars stopped on the interstate. And I remember Ben was like, well, we got some merch. And then he just like opened up the side door of the van, walked to the car behind us, and gave these kids, or like to the side of us or something, I don't remember,
Uh-huh.
just gave them some merch, like, where are you from? Like, oh, we're from Nebraska and Omaha or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so when you were talking about traveling and those little moments, you remember, yeah, it's fun to think back. And then the other thing you're talking about is and this will probably be the last thing we talk about, but I think we spend a lot of time either we're trying to figure out, like, what are my dreams? What are the things that I want to see happen? What are the things I want to do? What are X, Y, and Z? And I feel like a lot of times, we can push those things down and like, well, maybe dreaming's for someone else. But I feel like the more honest we are about how we feel about certain things, whether it's like morally or socially, like or even just with like business or what we're doing with our time, I think that the more honest that we are, the more alive we really become in the things that maybe we're created to do or whatever. But there's a whole nother world that happens, like you were alluding to, when you open up your life to other people, specifically like a spouse. Like they've got their whole own experience with either dreaming or going after their dreams or not, or being too afraid or not realizing what their dreams are. And I think, like you were saying, one thing that's so important is like, it's not about finding, every last detail of something you're dreaming about and seeing that happen necessarily, because we might have dreams and then someone really close to us has dreams, and we have to maybe set ours aside for a season or sacrifice the way that we see the outcome. And I think that that's a whole nother world of opportunities. One thing that I think that is really important, I found, is just to be really honest with, maybe like for me, I need to be honest with how I expect to see something happen, not because I need it to happen that way, but when I'm honest about that, then I can really truly like either sacrifice, like, like, this is how I thought I saw this thing happening, or us spending our time like this, but then being really honest about how I'm feeling. It allows me to have that freedom of really engaging through love, like, no, what I see, how you're wanting to see it is really important to you. And I think that that's a really fun, scary, but it can be a really fun and exciting opportunity to learn, like, it's not about necessarily even the way that we've seen it or seen it for a long time, because it's, for me specifically, I was single for, a really long time. And so I've kind of, you deal with insecurity, and I'm going to try this. I don't know. And then you start to come alive in some things, and then you enter someone else into the picture, and then you realize, like, okay, it kind of changes your world entirely, the way that you see things, the way that you dream, the things that or maybe like what's most important to you? What's kind of been your experience with all that?
Yeah, I think the question being um, how do you integrate or compromise when you're combining dreams with other people, kind of,
Yeah.
or regarding how important it is to be open with other people around you about your dreams, kind of both of those questions.
Right.
Yeah. I think that ultimately kind of what you're saying is that, or what I'm hearing from that, where I go with that is that communicating with people around you and having a community, no matter how big or small, of people that you can share those types of things with and that you can um, explore those things with is an incredibly valuable part of the human experience. And that if you're keeping all of your dreams to yourself, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're also not allowing other people to, have that opportunity to dream with you or just to see maybe the way things could be. Um, and I think that a lot of times in our day to day with people who, I think specifically with people who we're not too close to, we keep things on a really practical level, and sometimes that can be limiting to, I guess, just progress overall. But also just you can kind of be robbing somebody from the opportunity to kind of get to see either see the world differently and see you on a deeper level. Um, I think that it can be really vulnerable to share your dreams with other people, but yeah, I mean, you kind of have to hold them in both hands. One of being something that's really kind of intimate to yourself, but also something that should be something that we all universally can relate with, having dreams and recognizing that they don't have to be practical. They don't even have to be realized things in the end. But having a dream at all, I think, is incredibly important as a person. If you don't have any dreams or aspirations, I think that um, I don't know. It sounds kind of like a sad thing to me, that you don't feel the freedom to take an idea and just see how big it could get, or to take a risk on it. Um, Obviously, no judgment against somebody if they feel like they don't have any dreams, but I would encourage that person to be okay with the idea of not achieving them, because I don't think that's the point of dreams all the time.
That's great. Very well said. Love it. Well, hey, we're
Perfect.
we're gonna have to wrap up here. What's something that you're currently working on or releasing, and like how can people connect with you?
Probably the most upcoming thing is would be June 30th. There's a release of an album that I've been working on for a few years with some old friends, and Jake, you were actually in this band as well.
Yeah,
But the Donner Treat is releasing an album, Crown of Horns. It is absolutely a labor of love and a work of dreams. I would say a coming together of four souls at the right time and just kind of experiencing a moment together. And it's definitely a photograph of a moment in time and a mindset, and looking forward to taking this further into the future as we're working on upcoming material as well. But that would be the most upcoming thing. And then recently I was able to work with you. This is already out to the world on a project for Jacob Hemingway, the
all
band,
right.
not the man, called Jealousy, or Jealous rather.
Doesn't
Jealousy is
matter.
an
They'll
old
find it.
end of the week song.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. Sweet. Dawn Retreat, Crown of Horns coming out soon, end of the month, and
Mhm.
I guess it depends on when people listen to this podcast, but the end of this current month, point in time. And thanks so much for being on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I will come back whenever you want.
That sounds great. We'll definitely have you back. Thanks again for tuning in to this podcast. Feel free to connect with me on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Jacob Hemingway Music. Also, you can check out jacobhemingway.com. It'll take you to my merchandise site. I'd love for you to go check that out and get a journal. Maybe get two. You can buy one for $18. You can actually buy two for $30. Why don't you go ahead and get another journal, and get one for a friend or a loved one so you can dream together. Have a great day.